Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and as is usually the case here in the off-season, people are wondering whether this brand new OpTic team is the best roster since the dynasty was formed all those years ago. Some people would say yes, some people would say probably not. They'll have to prove something as of yet. TJ certainly seems to feel this way, not concerned about Pred at all. Question is though, will TJ actually be back in the league this year? He is still undefeated against Pred so far in their CDL respective careers. If TJ joins a roster, one of the few remaining, is there any chance they can possibly shut down this OpTic roster going into the new year? And also Clayster revealing that his retirement at the end of this season is not necessarily at all guaranteed. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Firstly, this is a big question I have about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. We have seen for a long time now that the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund is pushing hard into sports and esports, and there is a lot to be said on that from both sides of the argument. But it's no doubt that this is going to continue to be a thing in esports. Many other esports have already switched to effectively having their World Cup and their big tournaments out in Riyadh, and it's been, I mean, the Gamers 8 tournament, it's been mega. Now, it was confirmed yesterday that the Esports World Cup is going to happen. This has been their intention, really. I thought, honestly, they wanted Gamers 8 to kind of be this, but yeah, Esports World Cup, massive prize pool, multiple titles. We even get Cristiano Ronaldo tweeting about this. An honor to meet again with Mohammed bin Salman, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Great to be a part of the panel today, discussing the future of esports and the launch of the first ever Esports World Cup that will be held in Saudi Arabia next year, which is, I mean, these images are just like, it seems like a fever dream. But here you go, and you got Ronaldo, CR7 on the panel there, discussing the future of esports in Saudi Arabia. And then you even get Pasha Biceps, for example, of course, CSGO legends, talking about it as well. Hashtag ad, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, so 2024 Gamers 8, and then in turn the Esports World Cup will return yearly and even bigger prize pools. So this is relevant to the Call of Duty world because they have been trying to get Call of Duty there for some time. We know that Team Falcons, for example, that's like the big Saudi Arabian esports team. They're pushing hard into CS, especially, right? I think they signed Zonic, who is former head coach of Astralis and Vitality. I think he's gone to Falcons now, and they also have a Call of Duty team as well. I'm pretty sure they even funded them to get out into challenges to play in the North American region this past season. So, you know, the Saudis are interested in lots of esports and lots of sports, and they've been pushing hard. Call of Duty is definitely one of them, but they haven't made much progress over the last few years, mainly because Activision have said no. And this is what Sensor talked about back in 2022 and also potentially the year before in 2021. But maybe this was the original one, actually, that he basically said there's a big tournament in Saudi Arabia. I think this turned out to be Gamers 8. And they wanted Call of Duty to go. They wanted it to basically be an all expenses paid tournament for the players. And Doug was going to get invited and everything like this. And it was going to be as big as Challengers Champs, if not bigger. So, of course, you know, Doug and the other players are like, well, you know, get me out there, right? All expenses paid, get to win some money. But Activision didn't approve it. They didn't want to associate with, you know, the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, whatever you want to say. Now, Microsoft are involved. Is the situation going to be somewhat different there? Are they going to have a different perspective? Because Activision is always very protective of their, you know, of their intellectual property, their IP. It's difficult to get a tournament approved by Activision at the best of times, even if you're just a casual tournament organizer trying to put together a local LAN. You know, getting the approval for that, you got to go through some processes, I imagine. Usually you can get it done, so you're allowed to play, you know, their game in a tournament for money, but you know, still it's maybe not so easy to accomplish, and Activision have been very protective of doing anything like this in the past. Microsoft, though, might have a different opinion on the matter, especially if this is the way to make esports profitable, and this, of course, is, you know, a big question in and of itself, but esports is struggling financially, teams are struggling financially, and we see lots of teams are, you know, considering this move, going to Riyadh and joining up with the ESL program that's over there, and so is Esports Engine nowadays, and Esports Engine could be, you know, an ESL Esports Engine could be really the big group that actually might run Call of Duty League Esports, whatever's next after the Call of Duty League, or even this season it's possible as well. Esports Engine do the job anyway, and we know that Activision Blizzard recently got rid of lots of the staff that actually run the COD League as it is, so very good chance that Microsoft actually just say, you know what, third party will get you involved. It could be the guys involved in the ESL group, and that's one step closer. So I think it's really interesting just to see how this develops going forwards, because I think this Activision-Microsoft merger increases the chances that, you know, the Call of Duty World Championship at some point is held in Saudi Arabia, right? I think that's not out of the realms of possibility. Now, before we get into the OpTic stuff, just wanted to mention this from Clay. A couple of clips came out. So, look, we saw what Clay said the other day on stream, that he really doesn't like the off-season drama, and if he has to find another team, he'll probably just call it a day. Now, that we might not have had the full context of that clip. You know, it was maybe a minute or so long. He might have said some other things as well. You know, it's difficult to get absolutely all the detail on what Clay was trying to get across. We'll share a couple of clips here on he wants to do his own podcast, but, you know, look, he was talking about what he's going to do after competing, but he definitely wanted to make it clear last night that this isn't necessarily going to be it.
Please don't lie again, please. Nah, like, I actually have to this year. Like, not only to build my brand and my community back up a little bit more, but I also need to make some money, bro. Like, if I have another year like last year with what our prize earnings looked like and like on Vegas, like, bro, I need to make some more money. Like, and I need to leverage my brand, and the best way to do it is stream. I actually got good viewers when I play CODs. Start a podcast after competing easy. I've thought about that. I feel like my podcast would be elite, bro. Like, if I started a podcast, I feel like my podcast would be elite. Not even kidding, bro. Like, and not even talking about, like, my podcast would not be a podcast about, like, who the player's backstory. Like, bro, if I did a podcast, I'd do a podcast, like, kind of in the vein, like, this might be controversial. Fuck Joe Rogan, but I would want to do a podcast like Joe Rogan. You know, like just that style. Like bring in somebody, an expert in their field, or somebody who can share knowledge on a specific topic.
So Clay did say here on X.com, Twitter, right? Okay, a lot of people are taking what I said on stream out of context. I said that if I have to find a new team this next offseason, I might be done. But there's a possibility I stay longer than a year. So I think we did make this point. That next offseason, you know, I thought the clip was pretty clear that Clay is fed up with all this offseason drama. And if he has to wait another, you know, like, okay, the season ends, he gets dropped. He's got to, you know, do all the networking for like 4 or 5 months to try and get a new team with all the hassle that's involved in that. It's, yeah, that's tough. Clay doesn't really want to do it. And he basically said on stream that he ain't doing that again. Now, he's saying, well, you know, I might be doing it. I might do that. I might not do that. And I think that Clay wants to make this point just to make it clear because, you know, organizations trying to sign him and putting deals to, you know, pen to the paper and this type of stuff and sponsorship deals, you know, they want to know that Clay's committed, right? And also, if you're Clay's teammate, you don't want to feel like that he's for sure out at the end of the year. You want to feel like Clay's got some fight in him. And hopefully that's the case. And I believe that it is the case. Like, if this year goes well for Clay, then I think he will keep on going if he can. But it just depends on the team situation, right? I've said before that, okay, let's say he joins Carolina Royal Ravens, he plays well, and then another team, maybe Surge, maybe they think, you know, our C's isn't really working here. Could Clay be the man back with Illy and Hook? That could work. So, you know, and they were going to get him last year possibly. And then if Surge were to get Clay, an organization, okay, Vancouver Surge, whatever, back with Rambo again, you know, there's a chance that happens mid-season. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility. And if it did happen, then you might think that Surge would, you know, they might keep Clay around. They might not be an organization just to drop him and make him wait months before they sign him again. Although at the end of the day, next season, as I've said before, might not be the Call of Duty League anymore. Everyone might be dropped from their contracts. It could be a lot of things happening. So I think the time will only tell on this one, but it's good to see that Clay is very much committed to staying around if the opportunity properly presents itself. Now, this is a big question, and to be honest, I think this has been talked about almost every single year. I mean, let's be honest, the Chicago Huntsman team was very good on paper. The OpTic Chicago team, really, with Dashy, Envoy, Scump, and Formal, I mean, that team was pretty disgusting on paper as well, but I guess there were questions in hindsight about who was going to run the flex, and, you know, in the end, that AR combo didn't really work particularly well. So now we get this roster, right? And it's Shotzzy, it's Pred, it's Kenny, and it's Dashy. Is this the best OpTic roster since the Dynasty? Now, people always ask this, and, okay, you're never really going to get better than the Dynasty on paper, because the Dynasty was literally just the 4 best players at the time on the same team, like with Scump, Karma, Crim6, and Formula. Pretty outrageous, really. Of that era, they were just the 4 best players, and they were all on the same team. Like, what are you meant to do against that? So I think in terms of OpTic teams, it's going to be very difficult for any team to get close to it, but, you know, a lot of fans are thinking, is this the team to get into that position? And to be honest, it kind of needs to be, right? We've talked about it from Dashy's point of view, having not had the success that he would have feel like was, you know, maybe deserved by his talent, or whatever you want to say, over the last few years. It's a consistent topic. This is the year, given the changes they've made. They've got Pred, they've got Kenny JurNii should be a perfect picker as well, I think, for what they need. This is the year they really need to deliver. Now, is anyone going to shut them down? Well, it's going to be very competitive at the top of the league. FaZe are going to be very good. I would say that on paper, just looking at the rosters, FaZe and OpTic should be the teams going toe-to-toe for most of the event wins and should basically always be there on the Sunday. There will be other winners. I mean, Toronto, New York, obviously I think Boston will get good at some point, maybe Thieves, and the other teams I'm not so convinced. But I think of those teams I've mentioned, they should share basically all of the event wins, I would say, this season. And OpTic should win at least 1 or 2 with the talent that they've got on paper. If not, they will try and do better than that. Who can shut them down? As I've said, FaZe should be, you know, a big name team in that conversation. And let's be honest, a lot of the OpTic teams haven't exactly failed. You know, they've failed somewhat to deliver on expectations over the last few years. The green wall expectation is always massive, and it hasn't always been upheld. Now, TJ says the following, right? If I see Pred down at Dark Alley, I do not feel threatened. And this is the thing with TJ, that incredibly enough as it is, as I even said a couple of months ago now, when they were beefing around a little bit, I mean, okay, they're good friends, right, Pred and TJ, but it's still pretty funny, the banter between the two of them. You actually can still find these statistics that TJ is still undefeated against Pred in the Call of Duty League. It's kind of crazy, but on the Las Vegas Legion this most recent year, they beat Surge all the times they played them, and when he was on Boston the year before, they beat Surge all the times they played them. So TJ's 6-0 against Pred all time, and you know, TJ's kind of making the implication that maybe if someone else got him into the roster, that could be a pretty good deal for the party that actually signed TJ. Thing is, TJ, like, where's he going to go? Because, as I say, he was on Boston before, then he was on Legion, dropped by Legion. It's like, where do you go from Legion? You know, this is the issue with Vegas or Paris or whatever it was before, that it tends to be a bit of a death sentence to players' careers. Not necessarily, but you've even got to think that Donnie Temp this year is probably starting in challenges. It's like, if that's the case and TJ's gone and, okay, Clay's going to be in the league again, but Clay might not have too long left in his career. So Legion is often like the last stop. So I don't know what the plan is for TJ, because he hasn't really been linked to Legion again, although that I guess is possible if, you know, Mac isn't starting the year. Maybe there's a spot there for TJ to come back, because I think he was pretty decent on Viva Vegas this year. I think he's definitely, you know, in the ballpark of deserving a CDL spot. Maybe Gorillas, but as I say, we still don't know what they're doing. But whoever decides to make that decision, maybe there's a chance that TJ leads them to take down the green wall this year. So yeah, if TJ is on a team, be very scared, apparently, if you're OpTic Texas. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.